Hey guys, in this video, I wanted to share with you guys the differences between frugal versus cheap, because a lot of people, myself included, use these terms interchangeably. And I know I call myself cheap when I'm really being frugal, and vice versa, guys. And I want to share with you guys what the differences are and how they differ. So guys, if you are new to this channel, my name is Susan Velez, and on this channel, we talk about making money, saving money, investing money, and taking care of our health right now while we're in our pre-retirement years. That way, when we get to our golden years, we are going to be set, especially if you're late to saving for retirement like me, guys. So before I jump into the definition of frugal versus cheap, or cheap versus frugal, guys, now, before I share with you guys my term or my terminology of what I think the differences are, I want you to understand that everybody can agree or disagree on what the terms mean. And that's fine, guys. We can all choose to disagree based on what we think the terms mean. There's no right or wrong answer, but I want to share with you guys what I think. But first, let's share what AI thinks. So when I typed this on Google, guys, this is what it came up with. What does a cheap person mean? It said a cheap person is someone who is reluctant to spend money, often to the point of being stingy or frugal to the extent that it becomes excessive. This person may prioritize saving money over other values such as relationships, experiences, or personal well-being. In some cases, being cheap can be seen as a negative trait, as it may lead to a lack of generosity, consideration for others, and a focus on short-term financial gains over long-term benefits. Key characteristics of a cheap person include reluctance to spend money even when necessary, prioritizes saving over other values, may be stingy or frugal to the point of being excessive, may be unwilling to invest in experiences, relationships, or personal growth, may be perceived as inconsiderate or selfish. A frugal person is mindful of their finances and makes conscious spending decisions, prioritizes saving and investing, but also values experiences and relationships, is willing to spend money when necessary, but does so thoughtfully and intentionally, and may be seen as responsible and wise with their finances. Okay, guys, so now that I read to you what AI thinks about what it means, let me share with you guys what I think about it. So I've been both a cheap person and I've been more of a frugal person lately, but I've done my fair share of being cheap versus frugal. And this is what I think cheap means. So cheap means that you are not spending money, and it not only affects you, but it can affect your loved ones. It can affect other people around you that you care about. And so let me give you an idea of what this means. So for instance, guys, let's just say that you go out to eat at a restaurant and you go with friends or family, and then when the check comes, you do everything in your power to stay quiet in hopes of somebody picking up the tab so that way you don't have to pay. So this not only affects you guys, but it affects everybody around you, because if you're expecting somebody to pick up the tab, you shouldn't have been going out in the first place. Another scenario would be like, let's just say that you go out to eat, you're a cheap person, you don't want to spend the money on going out to eat, but you figure you go out to eat. But instead of tipping the waiter 20%, even if they did an excellent job and they deserve 20%, you tip the smallest amount, whether that's $1, $3, or whatever, but you tip under the 20% tipping average. Now, I'm not saying that just because you tip under 20% means that you're cheap, because I don't think that every instance that you go out to eat deserves a 20%, especially if you're tipping based on the service that you get. We all know that sometimes servers think that just because you're going out to eat, they expect the automatic 20%, but that's not necessarily how I tip. I tip based on the service that I get. So for instance, guys, we just went out to eat last Friday. The service was horrible. We didn't even get silverware. We didn't get straws. We had to get up and get our own silverware, had to get our own straws. And the server never came back and filled up our water while we were eating until the end, when he brought over the ticket for us to pay. That's when he asked us if we wanted more water. But the whole meal, he never came back once to ask us if everything was okay, ask us if we needed anything. In that instance, guys, I don't think that the server deserves 20%. I know a lot of opinions will vary based on this, but I don't think that you are always obligated to pay 20% if the service sucks. I think that we should all be willing to pay based on the service that we get, not just an automatic 20%. Now, if the service is awesome, there's no reason that you shouldn't give more than 20% if you feel like they did an extraordinary job. But anything under 20% or anytime you go out to eat, I think that you should tip based on the service that you get. So you have to understand that a cheap person is going to go above and beyond or out of their way to buy the lowest, cheapest product or avoid spending on any of their own money. And it not only affects their personal self, but it affects others around you. Another scenario of somebody who's being cheap, say for instance, they don't want to buy life insurance or they just don't want to buy health care insurance because it's either too expensive or they just don't want to foot the bill for that particular insurance. If anything happens to you, whether you die or you get in the hospital because of an accident, you're not only affecting yourself, you're affecting other people. So we all know that the cost of cremation or the funeral costs are so outrageous. If you have a family or you have loved ones who depend on you and you don't have life insurance because you just don't want to pay for that money out of your work check, or you just don't want to invest the money to pay for the safety of having that safety net, when something does happen to you, it not only affects your finances, but it affects your loved ones, because anybody that you take care of right now or is dependent on you right now while you're living is going to be affected, because if anything does happen to you, they're going to have to come up with the money to pay for your funeral expenses or your cremation, or they're going to be affected when you get in the hospital because don't have the proper health care insurance. So that not only affects you, but it takes the money out of the family budget because you didn't have health insurance. Whereas if you bought health insurance or signed up for Obamacare, at least you have some type of insurance for unexpected medical expenses. Somebody who's frugal, guys, is the opposite. They understand that you have to spend money, but instead of spending outrageously on things that don't matter to them, what they do is they base their purchases on things more than just price. Whereas somebody who's cheap is going to go for usually the cheapest product or the cheapest price. And somebody who's frugal understands that if you pay a little bit more right now, chances are you're going to get quality, and you're not going to have to buy that item again in the next few months or even the next few years. It's going to last longer, and you're buying more based on than just price. You're buying on how you value your time, whether or not it's going to benefit you, convenience, and price and quality, guys. So those are the things that you look for. Whereas somebody who's cheap is just basically buying based on price. And also, guys, when you are frugal, you understand that it's okay to spend more on things that matter to you and things that value your time, your health, or anything else. You spend a little bit more right now, but in the long run, it's going to benefit you. And it's okay to cut costs on things that really aren't important to you. So that's the difference between somebody who's frugal versus somebody who's cheap. Somebody who's cheap is just willing to sacrifice everything based on price, and they feel like if they don't buy something right now, that's fine because they don't want to spend any of their money, versus somebody who's frugal understands the value of health, value, convenience, and they're willing to spend a little bit more up front. So for instance, guys, so we just bought a appliance. Our washer machine went out after 10 years. The appliance went out. We ended up having to buy a new one. After doing my due diligence, guys, we were going to go based on just the price right now. Home Depot and Lowe's were both having a sale, and we were going to go based on price. But after doing some due diligence, guys, I had been told, even by the salesperson at Lowe's, that don't expect my new washing machine to last more than 3 years, 4 years at the most. It just wasn't going to happen. The quality wasn't there. They're not made the way they used to be made. So after doing some due diligence on Reddit, on the Buy It for Life thread, I decided to go with Queen Speed. Even though that washing machine was a lot more expensive than I could have got at a big box store, we ended up going with Queen Speed. And let me just tell you, we are very happy with our purchase. And not only that, guys, but Queen Speed comes with an automatic 5-year warranty, whereas the other wash machine that we were going to get at the big box stores, we would have had to buy an additional warranty on top of the price and everything else. And not only that, but because we bought the Queen Speed, it also offered free delivery, whereas we bought at Lowe's or Home Depot, it would have cost us money for the delivery, the removal of the old washer machine. So in overall, guys, we are very happy with our purchase. We understand that we paid more up front, but hopefully we do believe that in the long run, it is going to pay off because we made a frugal decision versus just going based on the price. So really, guys, the only difference between frugal versus cheap is frugal people understand that if they buy quality right now, that product is likely going to last them a lot longer. And not only that, but they also buy based on time, value, and health benefits. So for instance, let's just say you're trying to save money on filling up on your gas tank. Would you really drive 10 miles out of your way just to save an extra 10 cents on gas? No, because you know that it's not going to be worth your time. By the time you drive back home, that 10 cents that you got in savings on gas isn't really going to do you any different. However, somebody frugal might be willing to go out of their way and drive 50 miles to save $100 on a appliance, whether or a new purchase of whatever they're doing. If they found a deal where it was $100 less if they drove 50 miles versus somebody cheap would probably drive 50 miles just to save an extra $10. So you really have to base it on your time commitment, the benefits of how it's going to improve your life. And guys, in my opinion, health and the time that you put into something is worth a lot more than the money you'll save up front. So anyway, guys, let me know in the comments below. As I mentioned, do you consider yourself cheap, frugal, or none of the above? And guys, if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. Click on that subscribe button so that you can be notified whenever I put out a new video. And until next time, guys, I will talk to you later. Have a great day. Bye.